There was a man in Kelm by the name of Reb Notel. Reb Notel was a businessman in Kelm. And Reb Notel had a wonderful daughter who he married off to a very great Talmid Chacham. And he supported the Talmid Chacham to learn in Kelm for many years, and eventually it was time for the young couple to make their own way. And the wife, the young woman, says to her husband, "We've got some money from the wedding. Let's take the money. We'll open a little business in Kelm. I'll work in the business most of the day. Just 2 hours a day you'll come and relieve me, and for the rest of the day you sit and learn," because the husband said, "I can't leave learning. I can't stop learning to go into business. It's not possible for me." So they agreed. That's what they would do. 2 hours a day he would work in the business. But he began to enjoy the business, and he really got into the business, and he became a serious businessman to the point where he had no time to learn anymore. All of a sudden, on Motzei Shabbos, this young woman becomes ill. And they can't figure out, they take her to all the doctors, they can't figure out what's wrong. Somebody suggests maybe she has a Dybbuk. Now Dybbuk, like astrology and like spiritualism, Dybbuk is something that is true. There really is such a thing. A Dybbuk is a spirit of a dead person who goes rogue and enters the body of a living person and hacks the operating system of the living person and takes control of the operating system of the living person. It happens occasionally. Such a thing can happen. Now again, most of the people who claim to know about it and see it are frauds, they're charlatans, but there is such a thing. So they thought maybe there's a Dybbuk in this woman because they could find nothing physically wrong with her. You see how rare it was to understand anything about Dybbukim. At that time there was a Dybbuk specialist, Reb Mendel of Shtutzin. Reb Mendel of Shtutzin was a Kabbalist. Shtutzin was very far from Kelm. Shtutzin is in what is now Ukraine, between Kiev and the Polish border. So that's a long schlep from Kelm. So Reb Mendel of Shtutzin, they took the girl to Reb Mendel of Shtutzin. He examined her and discovered there was a Dybbuk. At first he wasn't sure. He discovered finally there is a Dybbuk and was able to get into conversation with the Dybbuk. He talks to the Dybbuk and he says, "What are you doing? Who are you? Who were you in your real life?" Listen to the story. He says, "I was a brisker young yeshiva bocher. I learned in yeshivas brisk, and I went to South Africa. And in South Africa, I went off the tracks. I lived the good life, and I stopped keeping Shabbos, and I stopped everything. I went completely off the tracks. And the mother of this boy, of this girl, and of the boy, the two mothers, pleaded with me to enter the body of this girl and make things difficult for her, so that to be metaken, so that she could come to a tikkun, because she did a terrible thing. She took her husband away from Torah, because he started off with 2 hours a day in the business, and then he became a businessman full time, and he should have been a Talmid Chacham, he should have been learning. And because of that, they came to me. I also left Torah. And they asked me to enter her body, and that's why I'm here." So Reb Mendel promised that the boy would go back to learning, and that he would do tshuva, and he davened for the neshama of the Dybbuk, and eventually he sorted it out, and the girl recovered. Rabbi Elyah told the story. Rabbi Elyah Lopian told the story to some talmidim in Kamenetz when he came to Eretz Yisrael. And he said the story as it was reported is missing an important piece. And he heard the story from Reb Notel himself. Reb Notel of Kelm, he says, "I was standing at the fence, next to the fence of the Kelmer Talmud Torah, and Reb Notel told me the story." And included in the story was, while Reb Mendel was busy talking to the Dybbuk started swearing and cursing in the most terrible of language. Reb Mendel had to close his ears, and everybody there had to close theirs. He was swearing terribly. And Rabbi Elyah explained that when a person's midos, when a person's character is corrupted, which happens in lifetimes, our characters become corrupt, and we don't fix the character in our lifetimes, then after life, this was the words of the Dybbuk that Rabbi Elyah reported. Du'u, you should know, ki im einosim tshuva, that if you don't do tshuva, ve'inasim nekiyim me'achetin, you don't cleanse yourself from the corruption, as hanefesh lemala mit'aveh lara kamo shehayta lemata. The soul in heaven is addicted to the bad behavior as much as it was on earth. Addiction is not a physical condition. It's a condition of the neshama. And in order to overcome addiction, you have to achieve self-mastery. And that's what our lives should be about. Our lives should not just be about the operational side of keeping Torah. Of course that's important, but it really has to be the main reason we're here is tikkun hamidot, is to improve ourselves, to refine ourselves, to cleanse ourselves, to remove the corruptions in our operating systems, to get rid of the viruses. That's why we're here. And Reb Chaim Friedland adds and says, that's Gehenna. Hell is, you're up in the world of emes and you can see the truth, but you can't do anything about it. You can't get rid of your own addictions. This man was addicted to foul language. So much so, he couldn't even stop using the foul language when he's in Olam HaEmet, sitting in God's presence. He's swearing. Watch your mouth. He couldn't. He'd lost control. Even though he's just a neshama, he's not a body anymore. Says Rabbi Elyah, the bad habits and the addictions that we develop in this world, if we don't cleanse our characters and develop self-mastery, we take it with us to the next world. And then you can't cleanse it anymore. The only opportunity to cleanse yourself is here. It can happen if you go, God forbid, to Gehenna and God cleanses you. That's already a privilege if God takes the trouble to cleanse you in Olam Haba. But to cleanse yourself, that you can only do in this world. And if we haven't cleansed ourselves through personal self-mastery, we take our addictions with us, even to Olam HaEmet. That's an unbelievable chidush.